You know that I think that first responders and taking care of them is a primary focus of the things I do. And there's an organization that I have been such a fan of for so long. It's the 100 Club of Arizona. And joining us is their leader, Angela Harrow. So thanks again for being here.
Thanks, Mike. Love it.
So let's talk about the 100 Club, because as familiar as so many people are with the organization, there are still some people that just don't quite understand what you do and why you do it. So kind of give us an overview.
Sure. Well, we're pretty excited because 2018 is our 50th year anniversary. So we're not new at this. We've been doing this for quite a while. But our goal is to take care of public safety, whether you're a law enforcement officer, a law enforcement, or a firefighter. Throughout the entire state of Arizona, we are going to help you in the event that things go wrong.
So it's not just because a lot of times when you became nationally known, unfortunately, was after Yarnell Hill. And so many checks were written to families because so many people were killed. But you help families where there's an injury, and in those cases as well.
Absolutely. Actually, people know us because of the line of duty death assistance that we provide, but the majority of what we do is actually line of duty injury. And outside of that, we also provide scholarships for kids. We help buy equipment for underfunded agencies. We do lots of really good stuff.
So when you started with the organization, you were started as a volunteer, and you've been involved for quite a while now, haven't you?
I have. I started about 8 years ago just as a volunteer ambassador, just willing to share the story and promote a good cause because I have such a passion for it.
And what I love about your story is that you were a recipient, you were a beneficiary yourself because of the loss of your husband. Mm-hmm. So you can walk into a situation when families allow and have a relationship with someone because you've walked a walk you know they're just beginning.
You know what's fascinating is I have the honor to show up and provide financial assistance to someone on their worst day. But the financial part ends up being so minuscule when they look at the relationship and the understanding that I can have, because I have had tragedy and I can try to get them through these next challenging days, weeks, months ahead of them.
I lost a brother, so we share something fairly in common. It's not the same as your loss, but what people don't realize is that there is a time, especially when it's a first responder, and your husband was a DPS officer, my brother was a soldier, there's a time that the country and the community kind of wraps their arms around and it kind of gets you through. But everybody ends up going back to their life, and there's a time when you're left to grieve with your family like I was, and there's organizations like the 100 Club, that's where you become invaluable because you never forget and you never go away. You're always there for them.
Well, we're glad to do that because we know, like you, that everyone has a story. And every story is important. And we want to be there for the long haul. So we do provide that initial assistance, but we don't go away. Whether they want us to or not, we want to be there to support them and watch their kids grow up. So whether they had young children at the time and later in life they need braces or they might need a scholarship, tuition substance or assistance, I apologize, whatever it may be, we're staying with them all the way through these years to watch them grow and just be their backbone if we need to be.
It's heartwarming for me to see how many people in the organization have become volunteers because they were beneficiaries. And that, to me, shows the backbone and the strength and really the character of the organization, that not only did they feel good about being a recipient, they loved it so much in what you did for them that they wanted to be a part of helping someone else.
Yeah, pay it forward. That's what I tell people every day, whether it's to our organization or another giving, wonderful organization here in the Valley. Just pay it forward. And it does take tragedy, it does take a challenging time for all of us to sit together and know that just what you see on the headline news is not what is always happening in this world. It's not always bad, it's not always tragic. You get to see the human spirit and how people can come together and really kind of lift you up in your worst time.
But it's also as courageous for you and the other people in the organization to do it because it's almost reliving with someone. It's got to be difficult to look at someone and realize they have no idea what's happening next, but you probably do.
Right. That is very hard. It's hard for me personally to see them and to see the children and the faces that they are, they're sharing these expressions, and I just know it's the unknown and we don't know what tomorrow brings. And if I can just be that silent partner to stand next to them, I'm glad to do that. And that's exactly what the 100 Club does. So whether it's an injury, whether it is a life-altering situation on some level, we are glad to be there. And we just want to do that. But we also recognize the other side of it and what law enforcement and firefighters go through on a daily basis and how much we ask them to do because they are asked to do the unthinkable.
and in situations that is really can alter someone. And so there's a program called Bulletproof,
Yes.
and that's what I really want to talk to you about. If you want to learn something very special about what the 100 Club is doing to help people that are first responders to deal with the things that they face on a daily basis, it's a program called Bulletproof. When we come back, we're going to talk about what the 100 Club of Arizona is doing for the first responders so that they can be the best that they can be, and just some assistance they're giving them. So stick around. We'll be back in a minute with Angela Harrell. We are talking with Angela Harrell. She is the leader, the president of the 100 Club of Arizona, and a program, and you're known for the line of duty death benefit, but so much more. And that's what I want people to learn about. I've been watching a documentary series called Active Shooter, and one of them is about the Pulse nightclub shooting. And one of the focuses of this documentary is about one of the first police officers on the scene and his squad that had to work that crime scene with the death and what had happened inside that building. And they stayed for 15 hours because they didn't want to be relieved, because they didn't want other officers to have to witness what they witnessed. And it has changed him to the point where he's no longer a police officer, and his wife said she's trying to get her husband back. And so we realized that the effects of the job that they do a lot of times isn't physical injury. So this program, Bulletproof, helps them deal with things like that.
It absolutely does, and we recognize this because we work in this culture. We know that every day an officer or a firefighter is going to go to a call that might be life-altering in some way. And I use the reference here in the Valley. You know, we have a lot of swimming pools, and we unfortunately have a high rate of drownings here in the Valley because of that. And we are asking our first responders to go there and provide assistance to a family that may have lost a child. They may have had to pull that child from a pool. They may have seen an active shooter situation or been in that where they have seen a mass casualty situation. And I talk a lot about how, and this applies to everyone in their everyday life, you have this like internal cup, and you can only put so many things in this cup before the cup runneth over, and it has to be released somehow. So Bulletproof is an online mental health and wellness resource for law enforcement primarily to get a first level of assistance. So whether it is with a marital situation, whether it is a PTSD, a post-traumatic stress type issue, whether it's financial, whatever it may be, we needed to create an anonymous resource where they could go and they knew that it was safe. Because it is so important for them to be able to empty that cup, to be able to go home to their family so that they can be that person that they started with at the beginning of the day.
They spend so much of their career being strong for other people. And the ability to show vulnerability is not something that is a part of the job description, so to speak. So not only do you not want to be labeled that in the career, but you don't want that to your coworkers either. So the anonymity of this has got to be comforting to them, where it's someplace that they can seek help and not have to feel they're going to be stigmatized.
They are the helpers. They're not supposed to be the ones that need help. They are the helpers. And when you call 911, you expect that person that's going to show up at your door is at their very best. And no matter what the tragedy is or what they're about to face, they have to be the very best. And they take a little bit of that burden with them every time they leave. And we recognize that, so those resources are incredibly important.
My brother's a police officer. He's got 3 children, and one of the traumatic things he had to do was remove children from a family because a mother said she was feeling thoughts of hurting her youngest child. And she didn't want to do that, so she called the police. And that lived with him for weeks, and we would talk on the phone, and he was pretty open about it, which is, I think, what helped him be able to get through it, was to talk about it with someone. But how many times, day in and day out, do our first responders deal with a situation where they may see their own children in the faces of the people they're helping? It's got to be traumatizing.
Absolutely. And when they take that burden away from the scene, or like your brother in his circumstance, when he saw that and had to interact with that family, they take it away, they take it home, and it's hard because sometimes they can share that information and chat with their spouse, but they also don't want to push that burden onto their spouse or loved one, and that's a real struggle. So there has to be some sort of intermediary there that they can really just kind of work through themselves, at least on an initial level, before they can maybe talk to a professional.
If there's a first responder watching that wants to reach out, how do they do it? And then if there are people watching that want to help out the 100 Club, how do they do that?
Well, initially for first responders, if they need assistance, obviously go to bulletproof.org. It's a safe place. We don't report anything. We don't analyze statistics, nothing. It's just a landing zone for you to go and get initial support. There's a 24-hour number there that they can call for individuals that are trained specifically to work with first responders. They are trained to help the helpers, and that's really important. But for the community to be able to help and get involved and make sure that we're taking care of and being more proactive, absolutely go to 100club.org, check us out on Facebook or wherever. We need as much support as we can get because that allows us to give even more away.
This is an organization you should be behind. They do great work in the community, helping the people that help us. Angela, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
We'll be back.